Thank you, Karan. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Vani, and the whole Kalaari team for having me, Foster Ventures for organizing this, and this for supporting this. All of us probably have a similar background. I used to work and live here in the Bay Area, but decided to move back to India. And, because my dad told me if you can drive a car in Delhi, you can drive anywhere in the world. And that lesson is still with me long after he taught me that lesson. And that lesson is, life is becoming easier, but still, if you can do startups and make them succeed in India, it's always a great experience. And today, I'm fortunate to work very closely with the current leadership in India on three areas, which is what I'm going to talk about. Areas around what we are doing in technology, some of the policy initiatives around both venture capital, startups, and in general platforms. And thirdly, of course, with Vani, we are part of what is called the National Fund of Funds, which is India's largest domestic capital source, funding all other startups. And that's been a super success story in terms of funding about 160 funds so far, and creating a leverage of about 6x of the 2.5 billion of money that we have invested in India. And for those of you who are in the venture industry and know fund of funds or the sovereign wealth funds, we are one of the top performing actually funds globally when you benchmark them against other fund of funds. 163 investments, 38 unicorns funded by us indirectly, and some of them are here in this room. So so there are three different perspectives. One perspective I'll definitely not talk about because I have a Professor K.V. Subramaniam after me. He's going to talk about the economics and GDP and the macro factors. So I'm going to limit my presentation around what I call the India update. As you know, elections are happening in India. Elections are a 7-phase process in India. And they started on the 19th of April. They're going to conclude on the 4th of June when we announce the results. The results start getting announced, start getting counted. The machines start getting counted at about 10 a.m. in the morning. By 12:30, we will know what at least I, being present here, already know. That's the policy certainty. That's the policy certainty we have in India. It's not arrogance. It's certain things that India has done, but that presents a very good picture to an investor or to a startup person. What is really happening in India at a very macro level, and why India is doing the growth that it is doing, and it shines in a very uncertain world. I'm here the whole day, so we can talk about offline many of the things that I've personally been part of the. Whether it was the G20 summit or many other things, how India has navigated and made friends, apart from one globally. So, and that one is our neighbor on the north. Apart from that, we get along with mostly, and that also we get along very well with. So, but as much as required. The rule of law is becoming much better in India. That's where I said the car driving is improving a lot, so you have better road conditions, better law conditions. For those of us who know the state of Uttar Pradesh, which is equivalent the size of Brazil to the size of America, one of the biggest changes that has happened there is the rule of law. And they used to say India can't grow, or you can't win elections in India without winning Uttar Pradesh. 220 million citizens in Uttar Pradesh today. India won't grow if Uttar Pradesh doesn't grow. But that's growing. The rule of law has really become very good there. The regulatory quality is improving. In fact, in digital and tech world, our regulations are being followed everywhere. In 2020, for example, 4 years ago, India banned something that you all use a lot in the US, TikTok. US has banned it day before yesterday. It took them 4 years to understand what we understood 4 years ago. So there is a lot of interesting regulation which is enabling startups, enabling the tech world, the tech policy, and the global south and many countries in the world today are following what India is doing. Um, One big hallmark of last 10 years of governance has been this whole issue of corruption. There is absolutely very, in fact, close to zero, I would say, cases of corruption, and that actually has changed India's standing globally also, and effectiveness of the government, the belief in the people, in the governance, and technology has had the most amount of role to play in that. And this is not B2B corruption when I say it's B2C corruption. There was a big thing in India that to get a small benefit from the government, you have to pay off some money. To get a driving license in India, you have to pay off a peon. To get anything, today it's all digital. It's more digital than you can imagine. And I have, to an audience like this, done demos that you could open a bank account now in 55 seconds. You can get an identity card, which is almost every Indian already has it. If you're a resident in India, you get it. You can get credit completely. A lot of credit companies over here, they would understand. So there is today no need for you to be sitting and going to a government office. And because you don't do that, 99.9% of tax returns, income tax returns, about 100 million people file income tax returns in India, a tax return. 99.9% are faceless returns. You file your tax returns, you get your tax approved the next day, whether you have a refund or not. And that's all faceless, all using technology. So, those were the points of friction and corruption, all being removed. And the last point that I said that there's political stability. The current leadership has a concept called the double engine government, which basically means center and state coordination. India is a federated country, and that political stability is what the world is looking forward to also, investors look forward to. But today, as I said, the focus, at least that I am talking about, is two concepts. One is big, which is a digital public infrastructure. Digital public infrastructure is something that, a term that was invented by India. The concept implemented at population scale of infrastructure that is shareable. Now, how many startups have actually come from India or are working in India over here? Can I see a raise of hand? Can anybody tell me in this room you don't work on UPI or Aadhaar or eKYC? Zero. Because today, you cannot build a startup in India and should not cannot, but also should not build a startup in India without involving digital public infrastructure. Now, what is digital public infrastructure? It is unlike the infrastructure that is, and I'll talk on this slide very briefly, but digital public infrastructure is an infrastructure that is shared common infrastructure, non-rent seeking infrastructure that is available to everybody to use. Your biggest startups today, I know Karan talked about 500 billion. I think another $1 trillion startups are waiting to happen, and when I conclude, you probably are going to start writing checks on the new infrastructure that we are building for enabling another $1 trillion worth of startups. One small point I do want to make, two issues on demographics. Number one, India is going to remain the youngest working population, not for the next 25 years, for the next 45, till 27. And that's a very important number for all of us. We produce the highest talent density in the world is coming from India today. 25, if the AI folks are not here, 25% of AI code is written in India today. And this is, so no longer, when the PM came here in 2015, I don't know whether any of you remember his San Jose speech. He said that no longer Silicon Valley or the US is a brain drain, it's a brain bank. This brain bank has now actually not even given, coming back to India, giving it the returns that we need. So many of us have gone back and done the things that we are supposed to do. India is no longer just a back office time. We are actually at the forefront of a lot of tech build out and a lot of consumption, and the youngest population in the world, highest talent density, 1.1 million engineers being produced every year. Rest of the world combined produces less engineers than India. We produce that many number of engineers. But the real story of India is this income pyramid. And this income pyramid is very important. As I said, with our former chief economic advisor is there, so he can dwell a lot more into that. But if you see this pyramid, this is where the digital public infrastructure has the highest impact. The income pyramid of India has about 250 million families and about 180 million households in that. Those are 103 and 80. The slides have shown the number a different way. So 108, about 80 million households just above the poverty line, about 103 million in the definition of the government, still something that needs support from the government. But the middle income is about 50 million households. That's about, and the rich, 57 million households equivalent to the population of the US. Now, if you see, whole of India, let's say, is growing at 8%, but the interesting thing is the top two pyramids are growing double that growth. And actually, Professor Raj Srivastav tells me twice that. I just was being conservative in saying double that growth. 16% growth in a size of an economy which is bigger than America. So you see where I'm headed with this. The opportunity lies because the startups, the innovators are solving for the top of the pyramid. The government is solving for the bottom of the pyramid. Both are making sure that India achieves the goals and aspirations that it's supposed to do. And the digital public infrastructure is what? The famous India stack. The identity layer, the paperless layer for eKYC, the UPI layer for payments, the transaction layer for GST data, and the consent layer for data consent. Now those are techno-regulatory too. Now what do you mean? All these tools are available for everybody to use. Government, startups, businesses, society. And this is what has resulted in India having almost 618 million bank accounts. 618 million bank accounts, unique bank accounts. Almost every family has a bank account today. Huge number of internet use. When I did this presentation in 2015, for example, in the Bay Area, 9 years ago, we had 200 million internet users in. Today it's close to 900 million. And guess what? Yesterday I was shopping for internet plans or whatever, cell phone plans. Start at $15 minimum. What is the minimum data plan in India, which has unlimited data? $2.50 at the best. Least $1.5 a month. That's the cost of data in India. Cheapest data, highest data consumption that is happening is in India today, by the way, from 155th to number 1. So digital public infrastructure is common infrastructure that everybody can use. And these are the three macro trends that are happening. Indians are going digital like never before. We are now 900 million Indians on the internet. We are making digital infrastructure as a public good. UPI you've heard about, Aadhaar, which is an identity stack, eKYC, all of that is already there. We have a lot more things happening around data, around e-commerce, around transactional commerce, and all of this is available for startups to build on. And, you know, as a country is becoming really, really data rich. These are three macro trends that I quickly talk about. One big thing for what you need for a digital economy is a bank account. 2014, this bank account numbers didn't exist. 520 million new bank accounts have been opened in actually 3 years on the back of the digital public infrastructure. This thumb, you go, you give your address, which comes from the paperless layer of eKYC, boom, in bank account gets open. And I have done a demonstration here in Silicon Valley where even the fastest of the neobanks or payment systems couldn't beat the speed at which we did a full KYC and opened a fully compliant bank account from Silicon Valley. And you can do that remotely. That's why we have 520 million new bank accounts in India. And these are zero balance bank accounts. And why this is important for us? This is consumers. These are savings. This is zero balance bank account, but I have 35 billion now in savings. This is 35 billion of money that was not there. It was in the matrices somewhere, I guess. But it's all in the system. And this is the new age economy consumer that is, you know, and this is across all layers. So there are two messages that you will see from me, that we have consumers now which are across all layers. So this is a talk about the data cost in India, and it's the lowest. UPI, it's the 52% of global real-time payment any day happen in India. Real-time settle. And guess who are the two biggest beneficiaries of or multiple beneficiaries, but two biggest are companies which are front-ending UPI. Google Pay, Walmart's Phone Pay. This is big tech working on India's UPI and India's innovation. We do, as I said, about 16 billion transactions. In the month of March, we closed at 17 billion transactions, 500 million transactions a day. 52%. Visa and MasterCard probably do combined do about 10 billion or 11 billion transactions a month. And UPI does in India about 17 billion transactions, 1 billion globally, and because we now have partnerships with 22 countries to take and receive UPI. So it's slowly becoming an interoperable global standard. But why is it so important? Because of the third point, data richness. Now we have this data. This data belongs to India. And this data is what we're building. The new AI engines, the new credit engines, the new healthcare engines, everything is being built on top of this. Payments is just one data point that we are using. But today, everybody uses UPI. Everybody means everybody. In fact, on the lighter side, the way I say, when my friends come to India, the only way to distinguish a foreigner or a non-resident Indian visiting India is they're paying by cash. The rest, everybody is paying by UPI. And if you don't pay by UPI, even a shopkeeper tells you, are you not educated that you're not paying by UPI? Because they don't have to deal with change. In fact, Professor Srivastava is here, I'm defending my thesis on the 6th of June. It's on this factor, that how UPI has transformed startups and the consumer in India and the vendor in India, trader in India, because they are the ones saying, I need a more effective solution, and they are using it. So anti-inflation things, I don't want to get into that. So, but this has been the big story of India. Two, we also now have been the biggest success story in the supply chain revolution. The new supply chain revolution that's happening globally, and with friend-shoring as being the trend, India is now exporting almost $20 billion worth of smartphone globally. And you know, there are two smartphone models that if you buy in India, you most probably are going to see the label made in India on the back. iPhone 15 and iPhone SE. You buy that. And of course, the second biggest factory of Samsung is in India. So we are 900 million consumers, whereas Samsung will sell. 97% are Android, 3% are iPhone. So you can only see the upside. The other thing, couple of things. You know, when I showed you the income pyramid, and somebody please tell me the time. Okay? The income pyramid in India, people think that this consumption is only on the top two levels of the pyramid. So again, this people will be able to understand in this room, all of you, we have something called a FASTag. A FASTag is the car's toll system. In 3 years' time, 97% of India uses FASTag. Now, that can be used by a small car driver, taxi driver, cab driver, everybody. Uniform system throughout the country, no different fast tracks in California, Nevada, Ohio, same. Debit system, not a billing system. Everything in India is debit, not credit. So you pay, it's a wallet, you pay and it's instantly done. Great message in this is, we are now collecting money as we use the infrastructure. This is physical infrastructure now. And our physical infrastructure build out is actually getting financed by all these FASTag payments, which was otherwise all leaking because of cash payments. All gone. 97% of India uses FASTag. Highest ever collections of $8 to $10 billion on this. So, great story how digital, and the finance minister in this budget presented a topic which was called DPIs, Digital Public Infrastructure, as a factor of production. So far we were looking at digital public infrastructure as a factor of saving, how we can bring more efficiency. This year onwards, we have shifted gears. Now DPIs are a factor of production, means how they're going to help us move the economy forward. And all studies have indicated 4%, 0.4, 440 basis points, 0.4 GDP savings by DPIs so far, like payment systems and eKYC, the leakages that we were happening. But more than that, now 1% GDP is going to be added by using the digital public infrastructure. We are only sitting at about 5% credit penetration in India. 95% credit penetration is still going to happen. And all that is going to be enabled by the data, by the algorithms that we have in India. A lot of things on formalization of the economy, and I'm going to leave this to Subbu to talk about, you know, all the things that we are doing in FDI and how it's been a sweet spot. The next topic on digital public infrastructure, and I'll present a slide on what are the new DPIs we are building. But you see, we are building platforms, we're bringing very agile policy, but we are also putting money. It's not that we are an oil-rich country, that we have oil surplus capital. Like a lot of sovereigns have a lot of surplus capital, we don't. But still, we have put with the center and state 20,000 crores, which is $2.5 billion at work to support our startup ecosystem. All venture funds in India, domestic venture funds in India, top venture funds in India have been supported by our National Fund of Funds. So we have put our money behind it. 22% or about $3 billion worth of government consumption. Government consumption is only dedicated to startups. So giving them money, giving them markets, access to markets and good policies. So this is and two very good trends. I know Kalaari is represented here by at least 2 women venture partners. 45% of startups are coming from the smaller towns of India. These are registered startups coming from smaller towns of India. So no longer innovation is happening only in Delhi and Bangalore. I'm from Delhi, so Delhi always comes before Bangalore for me. So, but 45% of startups are coming from all small towns. They end up moving, like you do flipping, they end up moving to Bangalore and Delhi for other reasons, but they're all coming from the small town. And again a 44-45% women-led firm. This is the new demographics of startup India, and it's amazing. We did one of the biggest startup conferences on the 18th, 19th, 20th of March in Delhi. And it's called Startup Mahakumbh. If you understand the concept of Kumbh, Kumbh in India means somewhere where you would get lost previously, but now it is, you know, a congregation of everybody coming together. And we had 50,000 people, 2,000 startups, and we had to put stops. No more people allowed. It was that big a success. And so this is something, you know, exploding in India. As somebody who's done startups when startups were not cool, I can tell you it's an amazing phenomenon. And I'll leave you with a couple of other data points. Savings in India. We used to have 20 million people who were trading in equity markets. How that has become democratized. Today we have almost 115 million, 15 crore Indians actually having trading accounts. Now, this is all being done on the back of, first of all, our digital public infrastructure. Two, it's being done at micro level, which means you need to have very efficient movement of money and KYC, very efficient KYC. KYC, everybody understands, is the customer, know your customer, but there's a huge cost to a business to do KYC. So if most of the businesses actually incur a very high cost of about $25–30 to do KYC, but with our digital infrastructure, this cost of KYC has come down to $1, but also represents a new category of consumer who wants to save, who wants to invest. So fast startups are enabling fast digital onboarding and slow ease and efficient transaction, but also the consumer want to come and invest in India. So these are domestic investors who are opening accounts to invest in India. Lastly, what are we doing? What are the further plans on open data platforms or this digital public infrastructure in India? You've already seen India Stack, which was these layers that I showed. We are, as we speak, building account aggregator already live. This is the congregation of all data. All data with consent can be shared with a purpose and timestamp. So if you want to use your data to give yourself credit, you do that. And there is a credit network to enable a credit marketplace. We are building a health platform, a complete health platform. But another very exciting thing that we're building is the national open network for digital commerce, already disrupting 3 industries: food delivery, e-commerce, and and mobility. And this is, as I said, next 500 billion is going to come from ONDC, an integration of ONDC with account aggregator, India Stack, and all of that. Building our own voice NLP, 22 official languages in India. And if we don't have our voice translation engine, which are again public infrastructure, we pay almost $2 billion a year to Google for voice searches and other things. Our startups pay that. So in a way, we give them money and they give it to Google. We want to also change that. So we're building our own Bhashani platform. As I said, it's the AI which is for languages. It's a voice stack. You can interact with anything on voice. And I'll leave it there. The big message from India is Indians are going digital. We are making infrastructure public, and we are trying to use the data for their own empowerment. And the whole data architecture is actually called data empowerment and protection architecture. And the government is looking at building open platforms, indigenous platforms, but mobile first, supporting all languages, agile policy making. It's happening at all three things. And I'm just lucky to be at the intersection of both policy, technology platforms, and venture capital. And it's all happening right now in India. So thank you. I'm going to finish my speech here and wish you the best. And thank you for having me. And sorry I took an extra minute. So thank you very much. With this, I'm also tasked with, as I said, introducing Professor K.V. Subramaniam. Again, this is an allocate you can only give in India. He's been the youngest chief economic advisor in India. Very important, because the youngest factor, apart from the being born brilliant, in a bureaucracy which always was number of years of grey hair you've had, to qualify for that position has been changed. And now he's the executive director at the IMF in Washington, D.C. So, Subbu, you're up next. You're up next. Don't be shy. So, please welcome K.V. Subramaniam.